Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1 Cheryl Elston. On behalf of the Council of the Australian War Memorial, Director Matt Anderson, and all memorial staff and volunteers, today we express our deep sadness at the passing of veteran and retired Major General Senator Jim Molan. Senator Molan dedicated himself to a lifetime of service to Australia. We will remember his distinguished service of 40 years with the Australian Army and his tireless work as an advocate for our veterans, the telling of their stories and ensuring that we have learned the lessons of the past to save the lives of our diggers in future wars. It is a heartbreaking loss, and we extend our deepest condolences to his family, his parliamentary colleagues, and all those with whom he served. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by Mr. Matt Anderson, Director of the Australian War Memorial, in honour of Senator Jim Molan. Wreaths will also be laid by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, flowers of the forest, wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Frank Bearry. Frank Bearry was born on the 22nd of February 1887 in Kristiania, Norway, now the city of Oslo. He is one of the many Scandinavians who migrated to Queensland in the late 19th and the early 20th centuries. Frank worked as a miner in Clermont, Queensland, a mining town inland from Rockhampton. In August 1917, Bearry travelled south to Maryborough and volunteered for service in the Australian Imperial Force. He began his training in Brisbane with reinforcements to the 9th Infantry Battalion. In late October, the men travelled by train to Sydney. At the end of the month, he embarked on the transport ship Euripides, bound for England. Bearry arrived in England in December and continued his training at the army camps on Salisbury Plain. The training camps were crowded and illness was common. In February 1918, Bearry was admitted to hospital with influenza. He was discharged from hospital on his 31st birthday and returned to further training. In April, he was sick again, this time with tonsillitis. He recuperated in hospital for 10 days before returning to duty. In July 1918, Bearry sailed for France and joined the 9th Battalion in the front line. Shortly after he arrived, his unit fought off a determined German attack on 2 of its outposts. The battalion war diary recorded frequent enemy artillery bombardments on the Australian positions. The 9th Battalion took part in the Great British attack on Amiens in August. This was a crushing blow to the German forces, whose commander called it the blackest day of the German army in this war. By September, British and Allied forces were facing the formidable defences known as the Hindenburg Line. During a preliminary assault on these defences on the 18th of September 1918, Bearry was killed in action. He was 31 years old. Today, his remains lie buried in Bellicourt British Cemetery alongside more than 1,200 Australian and Allied First World War burials. After the war, Australian authorities sought to find Frank Bearry's living relatives, but mystery continued to surround his origins. Norwegian authorities could find no record of his birth or schooling. One of his friends in Clermont remembered Frank saying that he had actually been born in America to a Norwegian father and a Greek mother and had grown up in Norway, but the search for his relatives lapsed without success. Private Frank Bearry is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photo of his headstone is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Frank Bearry, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.